Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Mouses Makes Knitting podcast, which is a week late, for which I apologise. And thank you to everyone who messaged me last week and checked that I was okay. I really wasn't feeling at all well, but I'm feeling quite a bit better this week. So here I am. But now I've got kind of a week and a half's worth of stuff to show you. I brought a drink this time. Sorry. Oh, turn that round. Without fail, I get a tickle in my throat every time I start talking to you. Never happens any other time. Anyway, sorry I missed last week. I hope none of you noticed too badly, but here I am now. I have got a finished object, and I've got a half finished object and sort of another half finished object, but I have no notes, so I've piled everything up and I'm just going to work through it randomly, so you'll just have to bear with me. Finished object is my husband Dave's Musselburgh hat. He's already been wearing it. I had to wrestle it back from him in order to show you. I knit it with Sirdar Click. I did save the label. Hang on, I'm going off screen again already. Yes, Sirdar Click, which is 70% acrylic and 30% wool. I don't think they're making it anymore. They may be, but I couldn't find it. I did look on Wool Warehouse, but that was the only place I looked. But you could probably still pick it up in D-stashes, which is how I got my other lot of it, which I'll show you later. This is colour 011, which is, as you can see, reds and oranges and purples, tiny bit of pink, little bit of blue, little bit of green. He loves it. It's a DK, or at least it's almost a DK. The yarn is marketed as DK, but is, I think, a sport weight probably. His other Musselburgh being sock yarn, so this one is quite a bit thicker, but apparently just as comfortable and very warm, and he loves it, so that's okay. There was a little bit of a panic. My friend Tonya, who I talk about quite a bit, who has the Calm as a Stitch podcast with her son Anthony, she was casting one on at her cast on party, and I said to her, little tip for you, because I've made a few of them now: when you finish your increases, weigh the yarn, see how much you used, so that when it comes to doing your decreases, you'll know how much you'll need to save. Well, I did that, but I did not write it down. So when it came to the second 50-gram ball getting smaller and smaller, I started to panic. And I was on Zoom at the time, and the other ladies were saying, oh, well, you can you can always use another yarn just to finish it off, because it will be inside, because obviously it's double. It folds inside itself and is doubled. So it wouldn't have shown if I'd have had to use another yarn. But as it happened, I knit it to the specified length in the pattern for this size, and I had this much left, which is quite a significant amount, really. I don't know what I was panicking about. So yeah, just under 50 grams. I think I did work out how many meters that made it. I want to say 270, but I might be wrong. But I did work it out, because I'm taking part in the Aria Bark podcast's Stash Smash for this year. So I did work out so I could enter it into that, because it did come out of my stash, although originally it came out of my friend Audrey's stash, because she sent me 2 balls that she didn't really have any use for. Sorry. So that's proper stash smashing, because that's not just my stash smashed, it's her stash smashed as well. Gosh, that's hard to say. So that's my fully finished object. I do have another Musselburgh on the needles. I really love this pattern, and I know some of you are probably a bit irritated by the fact that I knit the same thing over and over, but this is a really good pattern for just, I knit a lot of this when I wasn't feeling very well. Excuse me again. Because it doesn't require, once you've got your increases done, it doesn't require a lot of attention. You just knit. And it goes round and round all by itself if you're doing it on a small circular needle. I'm very sorry about this. It doesn't require a lot of input from you at all. So it's excellent for if you're not feeling great or you're trying to watch something interesting on the television. So this one is Ewan's. And I cast this one on before I saw you last, so that will have been 2 weeks ago. And when I cast it on, I've left the marker in. I literally had that much. So I had the green spot in the middle and about half that red band. It's grown quite considerably since then. I now have all of this, which I think is probably about halfway. I'm doing it on a really cheapy needle that I got from Amazon. I got a little kit. Here I go again, sorry. I bought this, which I think was about £12 off Amazon. It is quite obviously Chinese, but they're not bad needles. It's a metal wire that's covered in sort of a rubbery plasticky coating, but the tips are quite nice to knit with. How they'll last, I don't know, but I didn't have any I think this is a 16-inch needle. Can't remember what size I'm using for this. I think it might be, well, I don't know. I just picked one out and knit with it and saw if I liked the fabric. Whatever size it is anyway, I didn't have. The only 16-inch needles I've got are sock size, and I use 2.25, and I know it's bigger than that. It might be a 3mm actually. I think it's a 3mm. So this is sock yarn, and I'm knitting the hat on a 3mm needle because the pattern recommends that you go up a little bit from the needle you would normally use with that yarn. The yarn I'm using for this one is Cascade Heritage Prints, which is 75% merino. I hope you could see that. I don't know if I dangled that off the bottom of the screen. 25% nylon, and it's colour number 60, which I think said it was a Christmas yarn. I think. I got this at Wool Warehouse as well. But Ewan picked this for his second hat, and he's very pleased with it because the red and the green are Welsh colours. Don't think there's anything more to say about that. This is what happens when you don't have notes. And I don't want to be in about 10 minutes going, oh, and I forgot to tell you, with that hat, because that's irritating, I know. So we're going to call that hats done. The Musselburgh is a paid for pattern by Isolde Teague, but I'm sure you all know that because everyone and their dog has knit them now, unless they're not particularly keen on hats, in which case they haven't. I'm going to start at the top of the pile and work my way down. I'm knitting a sweater. I know, shock horror. I've got to get it out of its packet because I did not prepare very well. And last time I showed you the chart, which I'm not sure I should have done. So I'm trying to be careful this time. Right. This is one of my cast-ons from Tanya's cast-on party. There is going to be another one on the 16th of April. If anyone is interested in joining in, go have a look at karmas.a.stitch either on Instagram or here on YouTube, and you can get all the details. But I'm hoping to get all these things at least almost finished so that I can cast on a whole host of new things on the 16th of April, which is looming closer and closer. So this sweater is called Arnasha, and it's by Jennifer Steingass, and it is, of course, a Colorwork sweater. And I've mentioned previously I've been working my Colorwork game up because there's a sweater that I want to make. I probably won't make it till later in the year. That has a lot of colour work. As far as I remember, it's just 2 colours, but there's a lot of it, and it extends down below the yoke. So I want to make sure that I've got my colour work knitting as good as I can get it, because I haven't done it for years, because I don't really enjoy it, quite honestly. So this, if I can wrestle it out, that's fallen off. Always trouble. So this is as far as I've got with it. When you saw it last time, I was just, excuse me, I was just there. So I haven't done a huge amount. It takes a long time to do a row, but I think I'm getting the tension as I would like it. Let me see if I can straighten it out a bit for you to see. So it is a bit hard to see. I'm quite happy with how it's coming out. When I knit colour work, I weave with every stitch. So that makes it, for me anyway, that makes it a little bit more difficult to get the tension correct, because there's not as much play between the stitches, which is why I'm doing a lot of practice. But I'm pretty happy. There's a couple of places. There's one row in particular which you probably can't see. This row here, where I feel I pulled it a little bit tighter than I ought to have done. But in general, it's coming back to me. I'm also, this is a tip for anyone who is new to colour work, I'm also knitting it this way. So I'm knitting it inside the circular needle, if that makes sense. It's a bit hard to explain. So normally you would have the right side of the work facing you, if you're knitting in the round obviously, and the rest of it that side of the needle, but I'm doing it the other way around. So I'm still knitting with the right side facing me, but the rest of the sweater is on my side of the needle rather than the other side of the needle, which means that I'm knitting inside the sweater rather than outside. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this very well, but the reason I'm doing it like that is it gives you just a tiny amount extra yarn on the wrong side, just to give it that extra bit of give, but not so much that you end up with some stitches larger than others. If that doesn't make any sense, there are probably tutorials for it somewhere on YouTube, and if you don't understand what I'm on about, let me know in the comments and I'll see if I can find a tutorial to share with you. Otherwise, this is going quite well, if slowly. I am, oh gosh, about a third of the way down the Colorwork yoke. And I don't know if you can see the yarns I'm using. The main yarn is said I'll click again. And I don't know if you can see, it's picking up the green there. it's very subtly mottled. There's greens and kind of a pinky tone, as well as, I mean, you'd look at it and could say, oh well, it's a dark beige or a light brown. There's a lot of colour hidden within it. It is this one. So again, it says it's DK, but this is actually a 4-ply pattern that I'm knitting, and I'm knitting it with a 4-ply yarn, a non-specific 4-ply yarn, because it was deep stash and has lost its label many moons ago. But if I hold that a bit closer, you can see the one on this side, the beige colour, is the Sirdar Click, which is supposedly DK, and the cream is 4-ply, and you can see they're pretty much the same. Perhaps per inch wise they work out the same, so I'm just knitting it as a 4-ply. And this one I got, well, my husband bought it for me actually on Facebook Marketplace. Someone was selling some of their stash, and this is shade number 0129. I don't know if you can see any better. You can kind of see all the little colours that are lurking about in there, but I really like it. It's very pretty. So that's that one. Let me put that back on there. I'm hoping you can't hear my tummy rumbling. It's lunchtime, and I've waited till lunchtime because, well, quite frankly, I was hoping it would get a bit brighter, but also I didn't really feel like getting out of bed this morning. So it's now lunchtime and I'm hungry. So that's that one. Not got very far with that at all, but I'm going to have to up my game a bit. I've taken 2 sweaters out of my rotation, but one will be going back in. I had a rocket tee on the go. This is a rocket tee that I'm wearing, and I didn't notice until I was showing you all, and somewhere along these little eyelet increases I'd done something. I don't know what I'd done, but there was like a hole that wasn't quite where it should be, and it was bigger than it should be. It was just all wrong. So I laddered down to try and fix it, and it looked exactly like a ladder. Everything was like little bars of yarn across until I got to where I'd made the mistake, and then they were twisted around each other. And I have no idea how I managed that or what I'd done, but it meant that I couldn't fix it because there was no way to untwist them without pulling it all back. So I pulled it down, which was fine. I enjoy knitting this pattern, as you may have noticed. So I was quite happy to have to start again and redo it. But then Karen from A Yarn Tale, I watched her podcast, and she's having a Tin Can Knits knit along, which starts 20th of March. And I've had in my, you may remember the not very short list from last year, I've had in that, and subsequently in my rather large folder, which is the not very short list has kind of transmogrified into a folder full of stuff. I've had the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits, and I've not really known what yarn to use to knit it because it's quite a plain sweater. If you're familiar with it, you know, but it's pretty much plain stocking stitch with a garter stitch panel down the sleeves. And then I thought to myself, well, this essentially orange striped yarn would add some interest to that, but not so much interest that the garter stitch on the sleeve would look a bit messy. So I'd pulled it down, and I'm saving it to cast on for that. So that will get cast on before the cast on party, and we'll have to go back into rotation. But that's gone to the frog pond to be resurrected as a flax light. And then, this is not going to be a popular decision with some of you, I know. My honeycomb by Stephen West, painting honeycomb sweater. I can't reach it. It's going to have to go. I've almost finished the body, so it's quite late to be making this decision. I love the pattern, but there is something about the two. I'm going to get it because you don't know what I'm talking about unless I do. Hang on. I'm back. There's something about the two colours together that I just don't like. So this is, I mean, I've done loads, look. It doesn't look too bad on camera. This grey, which is Stylecraft Special DK in graphite, I think. Yes, it's graphite, not charcoal. I'm sure, but I'm sure, but I'm going to check. Haven't got the ball band. Oh, is that the ball band? No. I have many pieces of paper with things written on that I really ought to collate into my diary. But anyway, I'm pretty sure it's graphite, not charcoal. It's really hard to describe what my issue with it is. But somehow, the body of it against this contrast, which is King Cole's Splash Chestnut. Yes, chestnut. It makes the grey look kind of greasy. That's the best I can do in describing what my issue with it is. So I know I'm never going to wear it because I don't want to knit it. I made a million excuses not to knit on it, and that just tells me everything I need to know. It's going to get finished, go into my wardrobe, and then sit there forevermore, which is really disappointing because I'd had high hopes for this. But I think what I'm going to have to do is pull it down, and possibly use different colours as the pattern recommends, or a different colour certainly. Because if I put this grey against an orange, that's the best I can do. It's not quite orange, but you get the effect. It's fine. But it's something about this. I don't know what it is. So it's going to the frog pond, essentially. It's a shame because there's an awful lot of work gone into it. And it's not because the front of the neck has ended up not where it should be. I actually quite like that. I don't know how I did it. I'm no idea how that happened. But I think it adds to the quirkiness of the sweater. You can bet your life if I try and do it deliberately again, it won't work. But yeah, although it looks good on the camera, I'm not liking it. So I might as well either use the yarn again with a different colour and do the same thing, or use the yarn for something else, because I am not short of other patterns that I want to cast on. Let's put it that way. So disappointing though it may be, and I do apologise for those of you who were quite attached to it, frog pond it is. Right, next thing is a half finished object again. It's the Show Us Your Scraps Fingerless Mitts by the Lonely Knitter, Laura Bales, I think. And I have a finished mitt. Just the one, Mrs. Wembley. So when I showed it to you last time, I was there, and then did the thumb gusset, did the thumb, and we have a mitt. Really love it. I love the colours, which aren't coming out quite as nicely. I don't know, they might do on different screens, but on the camera they don't look quite as nice. It's sort of better, a little bit better. The yellow's a lot cleaner than it's coming out on the camera. They're lovely and warm. And the yarn is this one, which is Whistle Bear's Cuthbert Sock, and it's 80% Whistle Bear mohair, 20% Whistle Bear Wensleydale wool. They are really lovely. It's a sock yarn without nylon, and I was a bit afraid to knit socks with it, which is why I went for mitts. I'm going to have quite a bit left over, so I'm not too sure what to do with the leftovers. I mean, they'll go into my scrap blankets. Obviously, all my leftovers do, one way or another. But yeah, not too sure. Because I divided the ball in half, and that's what's left from one half. That's the other half. So I'm going to have probably half the yarn left. I might make a headband or a little small cowl, something like that. I didn't think to weigh this to find out how much it weighed. Less than a sock, I would imagine. So anyway, that's my second half finished object, really, if you count Ewan's Musselburgh as the first half finished object. That was also from the cast on party. Pretty much everything really is from the cast on party, I think. Sorry, I couldn't figure out what I'd done with the lid. That's in a little basket. My husband got me these baskets, which are handy for stacking things in. And I didn't know what I'd done with the lid because I just slid it down next to it. Another Stephen West pattern I'm working on. This one isn't from the cast on party. This one is from Christmas Day. And it got put aside for ages, and I don't really know why, because it's very enjoyable to knit. But I cast this on Christmas afternoon, and it is, please excuse the glare, the Botanic Shawl by Stephen West. To unroll it carefully because stuff goes everywhere. Let me show you how we are doing. So it's, I don't know, I think I'm about halfway there with it. It's lovely and light. Well, you can see through it, I'm sure. It's pretty see-through. I'm hoping to get it done in enough time that I can wear it this winter, spring, because today is miserable. It's dark, it's raining, it's not stopped raining all day, and it was foggy this morning, probably because the last few days have been warm and sunny and lovely. So it gives you the hope that spring is round the corner, but spring's gone again today. So I might, if I get it finished in time, I might get some wear out of it before the summer. I'm knitting it in Zorba Ball, smoking area, I think this is. Let me see. Yeah. And it's 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. And with it I have put West Yorkshire Spinners licorice. Black, I know. But it looks the best. I was going to use a grey, but you can see there's kind of a charcoaly grey stripe, and it's tough enough if I'm knitting under an electric light. It's tough enough to figure out whether I should be using the contrast yarn or the main yarn. If I'd have gone with the grey, I'd have had no hope, and I think you would have lost that stripe, whereas it still does show up with the black. So yeah, West Yorkshire Spinners signature in licorice, and that's the same yarn content construction, 75-25 superwash merino and nylon. So that I'm really enjoying, and because it was my Christmas Day cast on, it has on it a little tiny slice of Christmas cake. Oops, cover my face. That I got from Chapel View Crafts. I remember. Honestly, every time I try and show you these little cake stitch markers, I can never remember Chapel View Crafts. I'm hoping that's right now. I think it is. Someone will correct me if it's not, because someone reminded me who it was before, so they know. She makes the most adorable little cakes and biscuits and all sorts of things like that. Not just as stitch markers and progress keepers, but she makes them for dolls' houses. Oh, they're gorgeous. I could spend a fortune. I'd love a doll's house. I had one when I was a little girl that my granddad made me, and it had brick wallpaper on the outside. It must have been speciality paper for making dolls' houses, because it was all in proportion, and on the back there were some little toggle switches, and so I could turn on electric lights in all the rooms with a battery. Brilliant. Don't know what happened to it. I used to make little dolls out of pipe cleaners to live in it, and you used to get on cakes these little, I don't know what they were made of. They looked like icing, but they weren't. You couldn't eat them. They were like little bears, and I had a family of them, little bears, that used to, when they weren't in the doll's house, they lived in an egg box, and they all had like a little bed in each. It's not really important, but yes, now I'm a grown-up, I would love a doll's house, because you could, you know, decorate all the rooms and do all those tiny little things for it. Not that I would, because tiny things are fiddly and I don't enjoy fiddly. Anyway, short segue there into stuff that you didn't really need to know about. Yet again, another thing that I'm knitting for the second time, Love Note by Tin Can Knits. There was always a high possibility that for Karen's Tin Can knit along, it would be another Love Note, because I have got yarn that I want to make another cropped top to go over my dresses with, but I think I'm going to do a ranunculus. I know, I'm going to throw caution to the wind and knit something different. I did try the ranunculus once before. I don't remember if I told you this, but something went wrong. I was doing the provisional cast on. So you can do it with a provisional cast on or not, depending on what neckline you want. And something happened. I don't remember what. I think Dave came home from work and disturbed me, and it all went curly. Not literally curly. That's a phrase that we use for things going wrong. So I pulled it out in disgust and didn't go near it again. But I think I maybe over my love note phase. There's only been 2. This is the second one, but I think I may be over it. Probably because I've chosen to knit this one in black. Why do I do it to myself? So I have divided for the sleeves. I've found a poppy hair. You see? I've divided for the sleeves and I'm just working down the body. This one is going to be cropped. The one I did before, I knit to my normal sweater length, which is sort of below the hip bone. But this one is going to be cropped, mainly because I don't have a lot of yarn. So I think where I am now is about there. I've got to knit, well, actually it'd make more sense if I measured it from under my, yeah. So I've got to knit about another 4 inches, I think. I have only got, because this is leftovers from something that I made before, that I think was making with yarn that I bought for something else, which is what I tend to do. I think we all have a bit of a habit of that. Unless you are a buy the yarn I need, make the thing I need, then buy the next lot of yarn that I need for a specific thing, rather than those of us who just kind of collect yarn as an entirely separate hobby from knitting stuff. So I've got 300 grams, but I'm not sure they're full balls. They don't feel, how can I say, solid. It's Premier Value double knit, which I think I got from the cheapy shop in town a long time ago, and it's 100% acrylic. Made under licence in Turkey for Premier Skipton UK. But it's a brand of yarn that I've only actually seen in what we call the cheapy shop in town. So I don't know. But I've knit things with it before. I've knit quite a few things with it. It's kind of on a par with Starcraft Special DK. It's about the same price, to be fair, even though we call it the cheapy shop. But anyway, that is immaterial. So yeah, I can only knit on it sat here right in front of this window in decent light. The minute it starts to get a little bit dusky, I'm done. Especially when I was doing the lace, and I have on this version done 2 repeats of the lace. I only did 1 on the last one. Can't really see it very well, but hopefully when it's finished and blocked and on me, you'll be able to see it better. Oh, that's the point. I was going to measure, because I'm doing a different size. Oh yeah, that'll be better. The one I made last time came out enormous. It's absolutely enormous, but it's great for wearing over things and just being a slouchy, comfy, round the house sweater. So trying to wrestle this back into the thing, because I've now got patterns and their packets separated from their projects all over the place. Right, if you're still with me, I'll move on to the next thing. This was a cast on party cast on, and it's the Close to You shawl by Justina Lukowska, I think. And I'm knitting this with the yarn that I won in Tonya and Anthony from Karma's Stitches giveaway. And it's yarn that they dyed themselves. I'll just give you a quick look because I think you saw it fairly recently. It's growing. It's quite enjoyable to knit. I was there when you saw it last time. I only really work on this on a Saturday, so it's not had a huge amount put on it. But again, it's one that I'm hoping I'll get some wear out of. I might even get some wear out of it when the weather's warmer, to be fair. As long as it's not hot. I've remembered to move the stitch marker on this one. I haven't done that on any of the others. You bet your life I won't remember when I go to knit on them either. And this is actually being kept in a bag made by Tanya's mum, who makes some absolutely fantastic project bags and notions pouches and all sorts. I don't even want, it's got a drawstring, and I've never pulled the drawstring because I don't want to spoil its pristine crispness. Apparently there is a website coming. They are in America, so postage might be a little bit, but there is apparently a website coming, and I suspect I'll be buying some things because I love them. Right, the last piece of knitting I have to show you, gosh, 40 minutes already, is this sweater, which I've knit before. I think, no, I don't think you did see it before. I think I knit it before I started podcasting. But it's this one, which is Sirdar 10140, and it's knit in Sirdar Jewel Spun. And I have adapted the pattern slightly. It's knit in pieces and sewn together, which is what I did last time. But this time I am knitting it in the round, but from the bottom up. So it's taking quite a while because I'm knitting the front and the back together at the moment. But you can see, I think that's pretty much a full repeat of the colours. How gorgeous the colours are in this yarn, and it is Sirdar Jewel Spun yarn. I did that thing where I bought the yarn when I bought the pattern, and it was a couple of years ago, if not longer, and then I knit the pattern in something else, in some cheaper yarn, because this yarn was so nice. For some reason I didn't want to use it. And I know I'm not the only person who does that, because we were talking about it on Zoom the other day. Why? Why are we so mad? But yeah, that's how it's knitting up. It's gorgeous. Obviously, because I'm knitting in the round, the stripes are narrower than they would be if I was knitting it in pieces, because, well, they'd be twice the width, I suppose, wouldn't they? But I actually quite like that. And when it comes to doing the sleeves, they'll be a lot wider. And I think if it works out the way it is in my head, I think I will like that rather than be disturbed by it, because it will look like it's meant to be like that. At the moment though, I'm still undecided as to whether I'm going to knit the sleeves, then join them on and do the yoke, or whether I'm going to carry on up and do the yoke and do a provisional cast on and then knit the sleeves downwards. I've yet to decide. I probably won't decide until I get to the actual doing of it. So that's all my knitting at the moment. I should tell you what that one is, shouldn't I? Where's my piece of paper gone? It's Aran. It's Jewel Spun Aran. I appear to have lost the ball band, but it is shade 845. Again, 100% acrylic, but really soft, quite fluffy. Suspect it's going to pill like nobody's business, because it looks like it's trying to while I'm knitting it, so that will be interesting. So that's all my knitting. Quick life update really. not much been going on as I've not been terribly well. Went to a funeral on Monday, which was kind of a mixed feelings about that, because obviously the lady whose funeral it was my aunt and my godmother, and that was very sad because she's been a big part of my life, well, all my life. But on the flip side of it, her last few years haven't been great, and so she's out of pain, and you know, depending on your beliefs, whatever your beliefs is, she's out of pain either way. And it also meant that there was an opportunity to socialise with family members who I haven't seen for nearly 3 years because I've been unwell and unable to see anybody, and probably shouldn't have been there anyway, but there was no way I was missing it, because I am still, well, I'm still shielding. In fact, I can't see that I'm going to stop shielding any time in the near future, because COVID hasn't gone away and neither has my kidney condition. So yeah, the two things are not terribly good together. But anyway, that was very enjoyable, and I probably again shouldn't have been doing it, but got some hugs from some people that were really needed and have been missed for the last few years. So that was lovely. But still, it was a sad day. And for me, the worst part of a funeral is when you come home afterwards and it's all done. And there's something about a funeral, particularly if it's someone that you're very close to. Well, it should really be the same with all funerals. It should be that we appreciate the people who are still with us all the more, because we are missing the person who's gone. And that's kind of how it worked. And so I came home and I was really feeling a little bit, because who knows when I'll see these people again, and you know. And there was a parcel for me on my doormat, and inside the parcel were 3 little parcels. Let me try and organise them. And these had come from Alex, my Yarny Corner. And this is Alex's yarn advent. Now, Alex is doing quite a clever thing, I think, because what she's doing is you can buy the advent each month, and each month you get 3 little parcels, which is great, except that I hadn't bought 3 little parcels, and these are a gift from somebody. And I mean, they would have been very much appreciated at any time, but to come home feeling the way I was feeling and find them on the doormat, there could not have been a better time. So I am very grateful and I am very touched, and the person who's responsible wants to remain anonymous. So I was pretty sure I knew who it was. But either this lady has got an exceptionally good poker face, or I'm wrong. So I still don't know who they're for, though apparently all will be who they're from rather. So apparently all will be revealed in the fullness of time. But I wanted to take this opportunity to say to you, whoever you are, thank you very, very much. I did want this advent. I couldn't really afford to get it. I have given up buying yarn for Lent anyway. It's too late now, but I wish I'd given up chocolate. Let's just put it that way. Or Facebook, I did that one year. But I've pretty much given up Facebook anyway, to be fair. Anyway, the point was to say thank you to whoever it was. You know who you are. Who is responsible for this, and to say it came, and you couldn't have organised it, you couldn't have known, but it came at the absolute best time possible. So thank you very, very much. I am very grateful. And when I finally find out who you are, I shall no doubt, well, do something embarrassing, I expect. So that's all I have to tell you. Nothing much of any interest. I did get chased by a peacock at the wake, or on the way to the wake. The wake was held at I don't know what you'd call it. It's kind of a hotel, I suppose, in Chard, or just outside of Chard, called Hornsbury Mill, and it was once a mill, and there's a mill wheel and everything, and lovely grounds and a lake, and they have peacocks, and the peacock was in the business of showing off to his wives, and was doing all the, you know, look at me, look at me. And then he saw me, and it's undecided whether he wanted me as one of his wives or whether he wanted me for lunch, because he kind of chased me, but he put his tail down, he put it all away, and it was trailing behind him. Absolutely stunning. And then there's a fire escape near the door, and he came running at me, and I was like, oh. And then he went up the fire escape, I suspect to launch an aerial attack. But according to my uncle, it's because they like redheads. And he should know, he used to have a peacock, or peacocks. And the reason they like redheads is that apparently our pale flesh tastes good. That's nice, isn't it? From your uncle. But anyway, I survived, uneaten by the peacock. So that's the kind of family I live in. There is never an opportunity missed. Which probably explains my own personality, but yes. Oh, I've just realised. I'm going to see if I can turn you around and show you. The little daffodils have been out for ages, and I've just looked out, probably came out yesterday, but the grape hyacinths are out as well. So there's a tiny bit of colour out there on a grey and miserable day. Let's see if I can show you. But before I do, I'm going to say that's all for this week. It's been nearly an hour. I do apologise. And I will hopefully see you again next week. Until then, bye for now and happy knitting.